There's a reason why people get quiet when a Scorpio enters the room. It's not just respect, it's not just fear. It's the soul-deep recognition that you're in the presence of something ancient. Something that doesn't scream, but sees. Doesn't chase, but knows. Doesn't try, but transforms. Most people think they know Scorpio, the dark one, the intense one, the mysterious zodiac that everyone talks about but no one fully understands. But what if I told you, even most Scorpios don't realize just how powerful they really are? Because the truth is, Scorpio's power isn't loud, it's buried. Not because it's weak, but because it's sacred. You see, every zodiac sign has a gift. Leo radiates, Aquarius innovates, Gemini communicates. But Scorpio? Scorpio transforms reality itself. Not with force, not with flattery, but with something far more dangerous. An inner arsenal of hidden powers forged in silence, shadow, pain, rebirth, and ultimate clarity. And when these powers awaken, Scorpio doesn't just change their life, they shift the energy in every room they enter. They become incomparable. Throughout centuries, mystics and spiritual masters have pointed to the Scorpion as a symbol of death and rebirth, of soul work and karmic balance. In ancient Egypt, the goddess Serket wore the Scorpion as her crown, protector of the soul during its most vulnerable transformation. And in modern times, you'll find Scorpio quietly sitting at the heart of revolutions, healing the unseen, protecting secrets, building empires in the dark. But let me be very clear, this video isn't about flattery. It's not about stroking Scorpio's ego or demonizing their silence. It's about revealing the 12 hidden powers that make Scorpio the most spiritually advanced and most emotionally dangerous sign of the zodiac. And if you stay with me until the end, you'll not only understand Scorpio, you'll respect them, maybe for the first time in your life. And if you are a Scorpio, this may be the moment you finally realize why you've never fit in, why you've always felt like you were born for something more, why your pain has always been deeper and your instincts sharper than anyone around you. Because it's not an accident, it's a design. You weren't made to be understood, you were made to awaken. Let's begin. Hidden power number 1, the power of inner resurrection. You don't kill a Scorpio, you ignite them. This is perhaps the most misunderstood truth about Scorpio. They are not afraid of endings. They are fluent in them. They have died 1,000 times before most people have even faced their first real heartbreak. While the world worships survival, Scorpio understands something far more terrifying and far more liberating: resurrection. Not the Hollywood version. Not the dramatic comebacks. I'm talking about the quiet death inside, the kind that shatters the identity, burns away the ego, and leaves you crawling through your own ashes with no guarantee that light will ever return. And yet, Scorpio rises every single time. But let's be honest, the path to this kind of rebirth isn't beautiful. It's brutal. It's lonely. It's watching your own soul rot under the weight of betrayal, abandonment, trauma, and silence, and choosing not to stay dead. Scorpio walks through their own personal hell, barefoot and bleeding, and doesn't ask for help. They don't want pity. They want truth. And truth, for Scorpio, often demands a full collapse of the old self. Let me tell you a real story. A woman I once knew, let's call her Maya, was a classic Scorpio. She had everything taken from her in 1 year. Her relationship, her career, her health. She lost her home. Her mother died. Her partner betrayed her with her closest friend. And I remember thinking, no one survives this. But she didn't try to survive. She went inward, into the abyss. She vanished from everyone's life. No social media, no text replies. She cocooned herself in silence, not because she was weak, but because she was transforming. And when she returned 2 years later, she was unrecognizable. Her eyes were sharper, her voice calmer, her presence unshakable. She had started a foundation for women who had been through similar betrayals. She wasn't the same. She was stronger, quieter, deeper. She didn't just heal, she resurrected. This is the power Scorpio holds, to disintegrate and come back whole, to let themselves be shattered, then reconstruct every piece deliberately, like a soul architect redesigning their entire being. What makes this power so dangerous is that most people fear death, but Scorpio understands it's not the enemy. Staying asleep is. And while others cling to broken identities, Scorpio willingly lets go. They know what's meant to die must die, so something real can live. This is why when you betray a Scorpio and expect them to fall apart, they do. But what you don't expect is that they come back stronger than ever, and without you. They don't rebuild the old version of themselves. They become something the world has never seen before. They carry this power silently, but it's there, behind their eyes, in their presence, in the way they don't react to chaos, because they are the chaos that learned how to stand still. Lesson: the first hidden power of Scorpio is their ability to rise from what was meant to destroy them, not just with scars, but with clarity, with purpose. If you're a Scorpio, stop fearing the fall. You were born for the descent. And if you know a Scorpio, don't mistake their silence for weakness. They're not gone. They're just preparing to return as something eternal. Hidden power number 2, the power of spiritual X-ray vision. They won't say it out loud, but Scorpio already knows what you're hiding. Even before you finish your sentence, before you click send, before you walk into the room with that carefully composed smile, Scorpio has already read you. Not your clothes, not your tone, your energy. This is the second hidden power of Scorpio, an almost supernatural ability to see beneath the surface, like a spiritual X-ray machine scanning your truth in real time. And it's not something they were taught, it's something they were born with. Let me ask you this. Have you ever been around a Scorpio and felt naked, not physically, but emotionally, as if your intentions were suddenly transparent, as if you were standing in front of someone who could see the page you hadn't even written yet? That's because they can. This gift is part intuition, part soul memory, and part psychic sensitivity, but it always works. Even as a child, Scorpio notices what others miss. They pick up on micro expressions, changes in tone, hesitation in your words. They track the emotional climate of a room like a storm chaser reading the wind. And here's the twist. They don't always tell you they see it. Scorpio doesn't need to confront every lie. They just watch and wait. Because to them, truth always surfaces. And by then, you'll already be exposed. I once spoke with a therapist in New York, a Scorpio herself, who had an uncanny ability to disarm clients within 5 minutes, not with soft words, but with a presence so intense that people simply couldn't lie. She told me they'd sit down trying to talk around their real issues, and then suddenly they'd break, like the truth had been locked up, but it saw something in me that said, "It's safe to come out now." I didn't need to ask, I just knew. That's Scorpio's power, not to manipulate truth, but to draw it out of hiding, sometimes without saying a word. This is why Scorpios are trusted by strangers and feared by liars. They don't just hear what you say, they feel what you didn't. And yet, this power comes at a price, being able to sense deception, betrayal, hidden motives. It's a heavy burden. Because once you see, you can't unsee. And Scorpio walks through life like someone who's always halfway in the shadows, constantly filtering truth from illusion. This is why they're cautious, why they don't let people in quickly. Because the moment you speak, Scorpio begins mapping you, not to judge you, but to know who's real. Lesson: the second hidden power of Scorpio is the ability to sense truth without proof. In a world of masks, they see the soul behind the smile. So if you're around a Scorpio, speak from your truth, not your performance, because they've already seen the scene behind your script. And if you are a Scorpio, don't doubt that gut feeling. It's not paranoia, it's perception. You weren't made to blindly trust, you were made to discern. Hidden power number 3, the power of controlled chaos. Everyone panics, Scorpio doesn't. When the room catches fire, emotionally, spiritually, or even literally, people scream, scatter, freeze. But Scorpio, they go still. They go inward. And that's when you realize they're not afraid of chaos. They are the calm inside it. This is the third hidden power of Scorpio. Controlled chaos, the ability to hold steady while the world crumbles. It's not that they're numb, it's not that they're cold, it's that Scorpio knows chaos intimately. They were born into it, raised by it, forged in it. You can't scare someone who's already wrestled their own shadow at 3 a.m. You can't intimidate someone who has rebuilt themselves from rubble. You can't destabilize a Scorpio because their foundation isn't built on peace. It's built on resilience. Let me tell you about Elijah, a Scorpio ICU trauma nurse I interviewed for a spiritual psychology paper. He once told me, "When the alarms go off and the patient's flatlining, I don't hear the noise like others do. I hear clarity. I go quiet inside. That's when I work best." It gave me chills because that's Scorpio's essence. Precision in pressure, stillness in disaster, movement inside Venus. This is why so many Scorpios thrive in high-intensity careers. Surgeons, investigators, healers, combat medics, even artists who turn personal agony into transcendent beauty. They're not addicted to pain. They've just mastered their inner storm. And when you've mastered chaos inside, nothing outside can undo you. That's why people often turn to Scorpio in a crisis. When the friend group falls apart, they're the one who doesn't take sides. When the family erupts, they're the quiet anchor in the corner. And when everyone else is losing it, Scorpio is the one watching, calculating, preparing. They don't shout, they don't flinch. They just see clearly, act surgically, and walk through fire without catching flame. But here's the secret: Scorpio's control isn't about domination, it's about spiritual sovereignty. They know they cannot control the world, but they can control how deep they breathe when it collapses. Lesson: the third hidden power of Scorpio is their ability to stay centered while the world falls apart. It's not coldness, it's spiritual discipline. In every moment of chaos, Scorpio becomes a mirror. Do you want to panic, or do you want to transform? If you are a Scorpio, trust this. You weren't built to avoid storms. You were built to become the eye of it. Still, focused, unstoppable. Hidden power number 4, the power of emotional alchemy. Most people run from pain. Scorpio studies it. While others distract, avoid, repress, or sugarcoat, Scorpio walks straight into the fire of their feelings and sits down like it's a sacred temple. This is their fourth hidden power, emotional alchemy, the soul-level ability to transform emotional darkness into spiritual gold. Where others see grief, Scorpio sees wisdom. Where others drown in heartbreak, Scorpio dives deeper, until they find the lesson, the pattern, the power beneath the suffering. You see, Scorpios don't just feel emotions, they inhabit them. They don't skim the surface. They go straight to the bottom of the ocean where others can't breathe, and somehow they come back up with pearls. I once heard a Scorpio poet say, "My pain didn't destroy me, it taught me how to write scripture in blood." That's the essence of Scorpio's emotional power. They don't numb it, they don't deny it. They metabolize it like an ancient spiritual chemist, using rage as fuel, sorrow as ink, shame as a doorway to truth. Take, for example, a Scorpio musician named Layla, who I met in Los Angeles. She had grown up in an abusive household, ran away at 17, battled depression for years, but she never silenced her emotions. She channeled them. Every night she would compose music alone in her apartment, pouring every broken memory into melody. And when she finally released her first album, it wasn't just beautiful, it was devastatingly healing. People wept listening to her songs. Why? Because Scorpio had transmuted her pain into sound. And in doing so, she healed not just herself, but thousands who recognized their own grief in her voice. This is the alchemy. Scorpio doesn't just survive emotional intensity, they become the guide for others who are drowning in it. They are emotional shamans, going where others cannot go, feeling what others cannot handle, and returning with a map through the dark. But let's be clear, this power comes at a cost. Scorpio's path is not easy. To have this power, they must constantly be willing to feel everything, to carry more emotional weight than most, to walk alone through grief so deep it echoes. And yet, they do it, not because they want to suffer, but because they know the only way out is through. And once you've gone through, you become the light for someone else. Lesson. The fourth hidden power of Scorpio is the ability to turn emotional pain into power, wisdom, and art. They don't avoid darkness, they refine it. They are emotional alchemists, not victims of suffering, but spiritual scientists of the soul. If you're a Scorpio, honor your feelings. Don't hide from them, because your heartbreak isn't weakness. It's your fuel, it's your gift, and one day, it will be someone else's medicine. Hidden power number 5, the power of soul-level loyalty. In a world where loyalty is often conditional, performative, or fleeting, Scorpio's devotion feels otherworldly. Not everyone deserves it, not everyone gets it, but when they do, it's unshakable. This is the 5th hidden power of Scorpio, soul-level loyalty. A loyalty that doesn't come from obligation or fear, but from something ancient, something sacred. Scorpio doesn't attach to people lightly. They watch, they observe, they test your intentions without ever saying a word. And if you pass, they make a quiet vow, not to your image, but to your soul. This isn't surface-level friendship. It's not, we hang out on weekends loyalty. It's, I would protect your name even if we never speak again kind of loyalty. It's, I will walk with you through your darkness even when you don't ask kind of loyalty. And that kind of loyalty terrifies people, because most have never experienced something so fierce, so real, and so non-negotiable. But here's what many miss. Scorpio's loyalty is earned, not given. And once it's betrayed, it's gone. Not with drama, not with screams, but with a silence so absolute, it echoes. Let me tell you about Marcus, a Scorpio veteran I interviewed for a research project on battlefield bonds. He had served 2 tours overseas and told me the only reason he made it out was because of his brother, Jay. They weren't blood. They weren't childhood friends. They had simply shared a single life-altering moment in combat, and that was enough. He told me, he saved me once. That was it. From that moment, I knew I was his shadow. Wherever he went, I'd follow. No questions. Years later, when Jay lost his wife to cancer and fell into silence, Marcus moved into the guest room of Jay's house without being asked. He stayed for 6 months, cooked, cleaned, said nothing, just stayed. That's Scorpio. They may not tell you, they may not comfort you with warm words, but their loyalty shows up in the trenches, not the parties. And that loyalty is not just to others, it's to their principles. They don't switch sides because it's convenient. They don't shift allegiance based on gossip. Their soul signs the contract, and it holds, sometimes for life. But be warned, betray a Scorpio's trust, and the same loyalty that once made you feel protected will turn into distance colder than winter. They won't retaliate, they won't explain. They will simply vanish, because the bond to them was sacred. And once it's broken, there is no going back. Lesson: the fifth hidden power of Scorpio is their capacity to form soul bonds and protect them with unwavering devotion. If you have a Scorpio in your life who's loyal to you, don't take it for granted. You are being guarded by something ancient and rare. And if you're a Scorpio, remember, your loyalty is sacred. Don't waste it on those who only want your light but cannot honor your shadow. Because when you give your loyalty, you're not just giving your time, you're giving a piece of your soul. Hidden power number 6, the power of transformational presence. Some people walk into a room and you don't even notice. When Scorpio enters, the energy shifts. They don't have to speak, they don't have to move, they don't have to do anything. Because it's not about action, it's about presence. This is the 6th hidden power of Scorpio, transformational presence, the mysterious magnetic force that surrounds them and alters the atmosphere around them without effort or intention. You've felt it before. Maybe you couldn't explain it, but suddenly your heart beat faster, the air felt thicker. You became more aware of your words, your body, your truth. That wasn't anxiety, that was your soul realizing it was being seen. Scorpio doesn't need to talk to influence the room. Their silence is not empty, it's charged. Their eyes don't glance, they penetrate. Their stillness isn't passive, it's a mirror, reflecting what's hidden in you. And sometimes, that's all it takes to awaken something inside a person, to scare them, to inspire them, to make them rethink their path. I once attended a silent meditation retreat in the Colorado mountains. There were 28 people there, strangers, all committed to complete silence for 10 days. On the 3rd day, I noticed a woman sitting across the room. She never looked up, never moved, but her energy was undeniable. It was like sitting near a sacred fire. You felt warmed, burned, watched, and comforted all at once. Later, I found out she was a Scorpio. The retreat guide, a seasoned Buddhist monk, said, "Some souls carry the weight of lifetimes. She is one of them. That kind of presence can change people, even in silence." That's what Scorpio does. They carry spiritual gravity, and when you orbit near them, things begin to shake loose. Illusions, lies, false attachments. They don't even need to try. They are transformation, personified. This is why Scorpio can be deeply polarizing. Some are drawn to them like moths to flame, others avoid them altogether, too intimidated by the intensity, the feeling of being seen too clearly. But this presence is not meant to dominate, it's meant to activate. Because Scorpio doesn't want to control you, they want to see if you're willing to face yourself. Lesson: the 6th hidden power of Scorpio is the ability to awaken transformation in others simply by existing in their truth. They don't chase influence, they become the energy that shifts others. If you are a Scorpio, don't dim your energy to make others comfortable. You weren't made to be soft background noise. You were made to be a catalyst, because your very presence is a doorway through which others meet their real self. Hidden power number 7, the power of psychological warfare. Never start a mind game with a Scorpio. They invented the board, and by the time you realize you're playing, they're already 5 moves ahead. This is the 7th hidden power of Scorpio, psychological warfare, the art of navigating, influencing, and dominating emotional and mental dynamics with surgical precision. Now, don't get it twisted. Scorpio isn't manipulative by default. They can be. But what sets them apart isn't just their intellect, it's their strategic silence, their ability to study you without judgment, and their talent for knowing exactly when to say something or say nothing. Because sometimes, no reaction is the loudest weapon of all. Have you ever had a conversation with a Scorpio where you left feeling like they said almost nothing, and yet you were completely disarmed? Where their silence felt like a spotlight on your nervous system? That wasn't an accident. That was intentional awareness. Scorpio observes first. They take mental notes, your tone, your word choices, your contradictions, the flicker in your eyes when you lie. And they store it, not to hurt you, but to understand the battlefield. Because to Scorpio, every connection has energy dynamics. Power isn't always loud, it's subtle. It's who's calm when others are frantic. It's who can hold eye contact the longest. It's who knows what to say that will cut deepest and only uses that knowledge when absolutely necessary. I once worked with a Scorpio crisis negotiator. His job was to de-escalate hostage situations, and he told me, "People think it's about talking fast, but it's not. It's about saying one sentence at the right time and letting silence do the rest." Scorpio doesn't try to dominate through chaos. They control through clarity. They don't force you to break. They create the space where your own guilt, insecurity, or dishonesty begins to collapse inward. It's not cruelty, it's awareness. And sometimes, it's justice. Because Scorpio doesn't believe in superficial confrontation. If they strike, it's deliberate. And if they walk away, that silence is louder than any scream you've ever heard. Lesson: the 7th hidden power of Scorpio is their ability to master emotional and psychological energy in any situation. They don't play games to win. They play to reveal truth, even if it shakes the ground. If you're a Scorpio, don't underestimate your mind. Your ability to see beneath words and maneuver emotion with precision is a sacred gift, but use it wisely. Because every battlefield you walk onto, you have the power to either heal or destroy. Hidden power number 8, the power of regeneration through solitude. Some people wither when left alone. Scorpio awakens. This is the 8th hidden power of Scorpio. Regeneration through solitude, the rare ability to retreat inward and emerge stronger, clearer, and more spiritually aligned than ever before. In a society addicted to noise, validation, and constant connection, Scorpio chooses the cave. They don't run from isolation, they enter it willingly. Because they know what the world calls loneliness, Scorpio calls initiation. Scorpio's solitude is not depression, it's spiritual surgery. They withdraw, not because they're broken, but because they're becoming something new, because they've sensed a shift inside, a signal from the soul that it's time to shed a skin, release an identity, or sever a karmic tie. And that kind of transformation, it requires stillness. It requires space from the world's expectations. Let me share a real moment. I once coached a Scorpio author named James. After years of success, he vanished. No press, no posts, no updates. People said he must be burned out or depressed. But 2 years later, he returned with a manuscript that changed everything. It wasn't just a book. It was a rebirth, raw, luminous, terrifying in its honesty. He told me, "I wasn't hiding, I was rebuilding. The person you saw before wasn't real anymore. I had to let him die so I could write as who I truly am. That's Scorpio. While other signs gather their strength through connection, Scorpio recharges in solitude like a phoenix curled into its own ashes, waiting for the right moment to ignite. And when they emerge, they don't need permission, they don't need applause, they simply return, sharper, wiser, glowing from the inside out. This is why people misread Scorpio's disappearances. They assume Scorpio is running away. In truth, Scorpio is running within. And in that space, they meet their soul. They confront the buried pain. They receive downloads from the unseen. And when they're ready, they return as an upgraded version of themselves, without needing to explain a single step. Lesson: the 8th hidden power of Scorpio is the ability to regenerate in isolation. While others fear the quiet, Scorpio finds their power in it. Their silence isn't absence, it's alchemy. If you're a Scorpio, don't let others shame your need for solitude. That is where your wisdom ripens. That is where your transformation begins. You are not disappearing, you are redefining. Hidden power number 9, the power of silent intensity. Scorpio doesn't raise their voice to be heard, they lower it. And suddenly, everyone leans in. This is the 9th hidden power of Scorpio, silent intensity, the unmistakable force that radiates from within, commanding attention and respect without a single word. In a world obsessed with noise, performance, and attention-seeking, Scorpio chooses the opposite. They don't need the spotlight. They are the energy behind the spotlight. You've felt it. That moment when a Scorpio locks eyes with you and everything else fades. Not because they're trying to seduce, not because they're angry, but because they're present, completely, deeply, unnervingly present. It's not just intensity, it's depth. And most people aren't used to being seen that way, without filters, without distractions, without escape. I once had a conversation with a Scorpio client, just coffee, casual, but 20 minutes in, I found myself sharing things I hadn't told anyone in years. Why? Because her presence didn't just invite truth, it pulled it out of me. She said almost nothing. She just listened, eyes focused, body still, energy grounded. And afterward, I felt exposed and strangely healed. That's the paradox of Scorpio's silent intensity. It doesn't overwhelm you, it unwraps you. This is why Scorpios often intimidate people without meaning to. Their gaze feels like an X-ray. Their stillness feels like pressure. Their presence feels like a question you haven't answered yet. But this intensity isn't performative. It comes from deep emotional gravity, a kind of spiritual weight that Scorpio carries because of everything they've lived through, endured, and integrated. They don't need to assert dominance. They are dominance. In its quietest, most potent form, you'll notice it in how they listen, how they pause, how they choose their words like spells, how their silence feels louder than someone else's yelling. And that, in itself, is a power most people can't compete with, because when Scorpio speaks, it means something, and when they're silent, you listen anyway. Lesson: the 9th hidden power of Scorpio is their ability to influence and transform through pure presence. They don't need to impress. They don't need to perform. They embody intensity, without noise, without drama, without effort. If you're a Scorpio, don't underestimate the power of your stillness. It makes people reveal themselves. It holds space for truth. And in a world addicted to chaos, your calm is revolutionary. Hidden power number 10, the power of emotional precision. Some people talk about emotions like weather, vague, changing, hard to pin down. Scorpio doesn't just feel emotions, they diagnose them. This is the 10th hidden power of Scorpio, emotional precision, the gift of detecting exactly what someone is feeling, why they're feeling it, and what's hidden beneath the surface, even when that person has no idea themselves. While most people get lost in the fog of feelings, Scorpio cuts straight through it. They don't need long conversations, they don't need dramatic explanations. They just need one sentence, one pause, one contradiction, and the map of your emotional truth appears in their mind. This is the kind of emotional intelligence that can't be taught in textbooks. It comes from Scorpio's intimate relationship with pain, silence, longing, betrayal, trust, and truth. They've studied their own heart like a battlefield, and now they know how to read others like blueprints. Let me give you an example. There was a Scorpio relationship counselor I observed during a private coaching session. Her client rambled for 10 minutes about being tired, confused, and stressed from work. The Scorpio didn't interrupt. She just nodded. Then, after a long pause, she asked, "Who was the first person who made you feel like your needs didn't matter?" Silence. The client broke, right there. The tears came, and the truth unraveled. Because the Scorpio had heard everything, but more importantly, she had felt what was really there. That's emotional precision. It's not about sympathy, it's about clarity. Scorpio doesn't get caught in the noise of your feelings. They locate the pressure point, the source, and sometimes they press on it, not to hurt, but to release what's been buried. This is why Scorpios are incredible healers, therapists, writers, detectives, and friends. They're not afraid of your mess. They're just not fooled by your mask. And yes, this can be terrifying, because being around a Scorpio often means having nowhere to hide. But for those who are brave enough to face themselves, it can also be deeply liberating. Because Scorpio will never lie to you about what they see, not because they want to judge, but because they respect your truth too much to avoid it. Lesson: the 10th hidden power of Scorpio is their rare ability to identify the real emotion behind the reaction and speak directly to it. While others get lost in what's said, Scorpio tunes into what's not being said. And why? If you're a Scorpio, don't let others call you too intense when you simply see what they're afraid to face. Your insight is not invasive, it's surgical, and in the right hands, it becomes medicine. Hidden power 11, the power of soul-level transformation. Some people reinvent their job, some change their lifestyle. Scorpio doesn't stop there. They transform their entire soul, and often yours too. This is the 11th hidden power of Scorpio, soul-level transformation. The power to metamorphose not just circumstances, but identity, belief systems, karma, and spiritual purpose. You can't be close to a Scorpio without changing. They're not here to make you comfortable. They're here to initiate your evolution. Why? Because Scorpio lives through death after death. Not literal, but emotional, spiritual, energetic. They've buried versions of themselves others cling to their whole lives. They've walked away from jobs, marriages, friendships, even family, not to escape, but to rebirth. And when they rise from those ashes, they don't return with bitterness. They return with vision, like someone who has stared into the void and come back with instructions for the soul. Scorpio doesn't just adapt, they recode their reality. Let me tell you about Nadia, a Scorpio I met in a spiritual immersion program. She used to be a corporate executive, respected, powerful, on the surface. But inside, she was collapsing. One day, she walked away from everything: career, wealth, reputation. She told me, I realized the version of me I had built was based on trauma, and if I didn't let her die, I'd never meet who I truly came here to be. She lived in silence for a year. No social media, no job titles, no distractions. She studied mysticism, healed generational pain. When she returned, she opened a center for spiritual rebirth, helping women recover from identity death. Her presence was electric, not because she was loud, but because you could feel it. She had been through something most people run from, and she came back as herself. That's Scorpio's gift. They don't just evolve, they show others how. They walk into your life and, without trying, reveal what's fake, what's dying, what needs to be released. Not because they want to fix you, but because their energy mirrors your potential. And if you're ready, that presence can change you forever. But here's the truth. Not everyone survives Scorpio's presence, because not everyone is ready to die. In the soul sense, Scorpio won't force you, but they also won't stay small for your comfort. They are agents of transformation, and that energy can either burn you or birth you. Lesson: the 11th hidden power of Scorpio is their ability to guide themselves and others through total identity death into spiritual awakening. They don't change, they shed. And what's born from that shedding is something far more real. If you are a Scorpio, never fear your power to outgrow, outlive, and outshine every version of your past. You are not unstable. You are in motion toward your truth. Hidden power number 12, the power of karmic protection. Some people are protected by luck. Scorpio is protected by karma. This is the 12th and final hidden power of Scorpio. Karmic protection, a divine shield built not through rituals or superstition, but through Scorpio's spiritual depth, soul contracts, and ancestral power. You can't touch a Scorpio without awakening something ancient, a warning, a whisper, a force that says, "This soul has been marked, proceed carefully." That's because Scorpio doesn't walk alone, even when it looks like they do. They are surrounded by unseen allies, guides, ancestors, karmic memories, and most of all, a cosmic contract that protects their transformation path. You see, Scorpio is here to do hard work, to go deep into pain, to face truth others deny, to break generational patterns, to heal family lines, to pull darkness into the light and survive it. The universe knows this, and in return, the universe guards them. Ever notice how people who try to hurt a Scorpio often end up unraveling? How lies collapse, how secrets backfire, how betrayal boomerangs. That's not coincidence, that's karma, Scorpio style. Because when you cross a Scorpio with pure intentions, they will forgive and move on. But when you violate their trust with cruelty, manipulation, or envy, the karmic scale tilts immediately. Not because Scorpio casts a spell, but because Scorpio is the spell. I once worked with a Scorpio healer named Raina. She told me a story about a business partner who tried to steal her brand, copy her work, discredit her reputation, even sabotage her client base. Raina didn't retaliate. She didn't post receipts. She simply said, "I don't need revenge. My ancestors handle that." 6 months later, the other woman's business dissolved under legal pressure, health issues, and a public mistake she made that revealed her dishonesty. Raina didn't lift a finger, but the energy did. The karma moved. That's the thing about Scorpio. Their silence isn't surrender. It's a signal to the universe, and that universe responds, not because Scorpio is vengeful, but because they are energetically aligned with truth. And truth, once awakened, corrects what is broken. This karmic protection doesn't make Scorpio invincible. They still get hurt, they still lose, but what they gain in return, insight, evolution, spiritual elevation, can never be stolen. And if you're someone Scorpio loves, that karmic shield covers you too. They don't just protect their own path, they guard yours. Lesson: the 12th hidden power of Scorpio is the spiritual contract they carry with the universe, one that ensures balance, justice, and protection, even when the world misunderstands them. They don't cry out for fairness, they embody it, and the cosmos listens. If you are a Scorpio, walk with integrity, stay aligned with your soul, because the more truthful you become, the more powerful your protection gets. Conclusion: Scorpio's hidden crown. By now, you've seen what most people overlook. Scorpio isn't powerful because they're loud. They're powerful because they're aligned with shadow, soul, and silence. Let's take a breath and reflect on what we've uncovered. The power to rise from destruction. The power to read emotional truth. The power to stay calm in chaos. The power to transmute pain into healing. The power to offer unbreakable loyalty. The power of a presence that transforms rooms. The power to engage in psychological warfare with clarity, not cruelty. The power to rebirth in solitude. The power of silent intensity. The power of emotional precision. The power to guide others through spiritual transformation and the sacred protection of karma itself. These are not talents you learn. They are soul gifts, forged through lifetimes of surviving the fire and now becoming it. If you are a Scorpio, never apologize for your depth. You were never meant to be easy to understand. You were meant to be impossible to replace. If you love a Scorpio, honor the way they love, the way they disappear, the way they watch instead of speak. That is how they move energy. That is how they protect you. That is how they change lives. And if you've ever feared a Scorpio, ask yourself what part of you felt threatened. Because Scorpio doesn't provoke your ego, they awaken your truth. Now we want to hear from you. Which hidden power hit the deepest? Have you ever witnessed a Scorpio rise, transform, or protect someone silently? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read everyone. This is a space for spiritual conversation, not just astrology. And if you're new here, welcome to the path to Buddhist wisdom, where astrology meets soul work, where every sign has a sacred role, and where Scorpio stands not just as the scorpion, but as the phoenix. And sometimes, as the silent guardian no one sees coming. Subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with someone who needs to understand the depth of Scorpio. This isn't just a zodiac sign, it's a cosmic assignment. And Scorpio, you were never just made to survive, you were born to transform the world.